Today's podcast title could be seen as contentious, but as the past 18 months have shown us, e-commerce is growing fast. So anything that offers a competitive advantage should help differentiate brands and their offerings. To discuss this, I'm joined by Matt Abbott, Head of Growth, and Samantha Fraser, Lead Digital Strategy Manager from Spotify Plus agency Swanky. E-commerce is the lifeblood of their business, so hopefully they can answer the question and give an insight as to why they think CRO is becoming mainstream. So, Matt and Sammy, is conversion rate optimization essential to e-commerce? It's a pretty broad topic, wouldn't you say? But before we jump into that, let me just point out that there are many companies that sell products online, and over the last 2 years or so, not only have the number of companies that sell online increased, but also the percentage of overall sales are tipping strongly towards ongoing digital growth. This can't be down to COVID alone, can it?
Yeah, I don't think it is down to COVID. I think it comes down to convenience. Like, people have phones everywhere. They're on them all. They're on their person all of the time, aren't they? So that effectively they can shop 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I kind of think COVID has pushed that digital growth a long way. I think people are using the internet in completely different ways than they used to. So working from home, a lot of people doing a lot more like food shopping online and things like that, engaging with friends and family that you wouldn't normally have done online before that. But I do think the massive digital growth that we're seeing at the moment is also a real big push from kind of just the generations, so millennials and Gen Z, just really embracing how they use online in a completely different way now.
I think you're inferring by that people that are working from home are doing their shopping online while they should be working. Is that right?
Maybe a little bit. But yeah, I think about how I use online now. It's a completely different way to how I used it before COVID. And I think before, how you'd think, oh, I'll just pop to the shops or I'll go and do this. You're just looking at any way to make your life that little bit easier. Which, yeah, as Matt said, around convenience, that's definitely a lot more important now.
Do you think the aspect of having a device in your hand 24/7 is actually kickstarting all of this, or do you think that people are just generally becoming lazier and want to be able to do things from the comfort of their sofa?
I don't think people are becoming lazier. I think with society we're seeing it not just in online retail, but not across the board. The need for instant gratification, and digital is enabling that, isn't it? So the fact that they can order something at 9 o'clock at night and have it delivered in 20 minutes or have it on their doorstep the next morning, it's allowing us to basically to expect that to happen, and it then therefore being able to happen as companies respond and adapt to what consumers are looking for.
I think that's a really interesting angle, because people do purchase things on this instant gratification. I think that's psychologically quite a strong kind of indicator where people are saying, actually, once I want this. I'll give you an example. And this is, I apologize up front, this is gender specific, I think. A lot of men would prefer to buy a TV in a physical store because they can get it there and then than waiting 24 hours. If the price is give or take 5%, they're more likely to do that. And I think there's a cost relationship to product purchasing online and delivery timescales, which is a whole different kind of conversation, but one which I'd like to potentially get a consumer psychologist on board to be able to explain that a little bit more. But I think it's an interesting topic in itself. But moving on, I would say that many companies, especially those online, gain significant cost advantages over their physical counterparts. In your view, does this simply make it easier for companies to get online or to start trading? And if so, are people going into business now as an easy option?
There are so many different ways in which that question could be answered. I agree, yes, it does reduce the cost of entry, I think, going online, but at the same time, I also don't necessarily agree. So like in theory, right, you can set up your website for free. There are platforms that enable you to do that, but you're still going to have other costs either directly or indirectly associated with running that business, and that depends on the business model that they choose, or how they start, or what led them into online retail. So unless you're drop shipping, you're still going to have rent to pay, you're still going to have insurance, storage costs, staff costs, and even if people are setting it up in their bedroom, they're still paying to heat their house, aren't they? You're still going to have to raise awareness, you're still going to have to attract customers, and that costs money as well. So yes, going online, there's huge amounts of benefit, and it's a lot easier to reach people that aren't necessarily walking past a physical store. So I guess my answer really, I suppose, is it's a lot easier to be a national business or an international business. So whilst it might not be low cost of entry at the beginning, it certainly lowers the cost of entry into new markets.
One of the typical examples I would cite is that traditional companies such as car showrooms selling automobiles, either new or secondhand, has now become an online process, which is phenomenal considering the amount that people are purchasing to buy something online. But people like Cinch, Kazoo, they've what you would call traditional industries. They have very large marketing budgets, as you can see. You can see sporting venues now being sponsored by the likes of Cinch and Kazoo. But what can companies do that don't have very deep marketing pockets to be able to delve into? Is there anything that the smallest companies can do to be able to kind of get their business online?
They can rely on their customers. Business is still people to people at the end of the day, so it's all about relationships and being able to leverage them. So our advice to our clients is always make your customers feel valued, reward them, recognize them, say thank you to them, get them then to talk about their experience. And the key to that is making sure that you deliver a great customer experience. But as people talk, then they might recommend businesses to their friends. They would have then gone on and acquired a new customer, potentially a lot lower cost than it would have through a traditional digital channel like SEO or PPC.
But SEO and PPC obviously have a cost associated with them. Do you think that people perceive that is value for money by comparison to what you might have seen as traditional marketing? And I mean by that, marketing 20 years ago is a lot different to marketing today. Every element of marketing now has a return on investment or can see a return on investment. Do you think that this people-to-people experience that you're describing there, is that something that you can monetize easily? Or is it something that you have to invest in SEO and PPC and maybe CRO to be able to make the best out of it?
I think for me, the main part is just knowing your customer and where they are and the best way to find them. So if that comes down to SEO, content marketing, then great. But I think there's also a lot of other ways that inexpensive, which kind of reduces that wastage because you know that you're hitting your customer when they're actively searching. So things such as like email and content marketing, like we said with SEO, social media and influencer is huge these days, and it's really like quite an inexpensive way of reaching your customer at a particular time that you know that they'll be looking, kind of looking for like complementary brand collaborations. So all like really good ways to increase your brand reach at low cost while just ensuring you remain relevant and reduce waste of capturing your audience attention at the right time.
That's a great answer, and obviously somebody that has a lot of digital expertise out there. But there are many companies who are just moving into that digital world and potentially using companies like Swanky to be able to help them in that respect. Do you think that the skills gap that's in existing companies going digital versus the bigger companies that have been digital for many months and years, do you think that digital skills gap is being able to be filled into those smaller companies, or do you think they'll continue to rely on agencies?
I think if we consider the hiring market at the moment, I think businesses are going to have to continue to rely on agencies. There's a risk.
You're listening to the shortened version of this podcast. To listen to the full version, visit your favourite podcast player and search for Webtrends Optimize or The Big Lift.